We are live in the dead of night. Boilers Extra from the Big House. I'm Nathan Baird from the Indy Star.
Sam King from the Journal and Courier.
Well, we told you earlier this week, we both predicted Purdue would beat the spread. Neither one of us, though, was predicting something quite like this. A game where in the fourth quarter, Purdue had opportunities to win this game.
Was one stop away from maybe having a drive to win the game.
I mean, Michigan had to hold on to the ball there, and Michigan, you can look at it either way. Like either Michigan had to go out and execute to keep the ball, or Purdue didn't execute to get it back, whatever. And you can also, as so many Purdue games this season, you can look back at. I was just talking to one of my former colleagues from when I worked at a different company as we were passing here a few minutes ago, and like any one of like four plays in this game that we'll get into maybe changes the outcome. But Purdue loses 21-16, and this doesn't feel, though, like the way the last 3 weeks did. And I think we both kind of came out of this with the same sentiment, which is losing's not good enough. You got to find a way to win. This still is another example of how there's a separation. At the same time, this is, and the team can't think this way, the coaches can't think this way, but those of us outside can think this way. I think we can have this perspective that this isn't a bad loss, and that this is a kind of thing that if you can repeat it now, repeat this performance, repeat that you're making teams that are some of the best teams in college football work into the fourth quarter to beat you, which is a long way away from where this team was a year ago at this time. That counts as some version of progress.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tony Grimes said in the postgame, cornerback Tony Grimes talked about we still have stairs to climb. But I think what I wrote, a phrase I used, was Purdue felt like it skipped a couple floors on that staircase tonight at Michigan. And, it wasn't flawless by any means, but I thought a big sign of growth was being able to overcome some of those mistakes. There was a 9.5-minute drive where Purdue got two, could have been back-breaking penalties, one of them which it scored a touchdown on, and it still ended up finding the end zone on that drive. And this team probably wouldn't have done that, especially not against the team of caliber of Michigan a month ago. I don't think that would have been the case. And I thought that was a positive sign. Still, the mistakes that you can point to, of which there were several, the end of half drives that teams are putting on, those have been backbreakers for Purdue during this losing streak.
We'll get into that in a second. I do think let's talk about the 9.5-minute drive. We're not going to go all night. We already have gone all night. With other work we were doing and watching.
We were interrupted by the Blue Jays and Dodgers as well.
One of the most incredible World Series of our lifetimes, I think. That was just an amazing series. But anyway, not to get off on that subject, but the 9.5-minute drive, when they get to the end of that and they score a touchdown, and you're right, like I was kind of writing about that in real time. Like they had a holding penalty there that took a 1st and 10 at the 39 and made it 1st and 20 at the 49. Like that's where Purdue drives go to die all season, right? They come back, they get 7 yards on 3rd and 9, and then they win 4th down. And winning in short yardage situations has not always been a positive thing for this team. We'll come back to that in a second as we talk about like momentum changing plays. And then they go down, and you're right, like they have the touchdown, looks like a really well designed play, catch Michigan off guard, get it. I can't remember who it was. It was Thomas, I think, wide open in the end zone for a touchdown. Called off by the receivers had covered each other up, and it was a legal man downfield. And then they come back and get the touchdown anyway. And that, to tie the score there 7-7, the way the defense was playing, and the fact that you just went on a 9.5-minute drive, and you've just now shortened the game, and you are getting to Underwood. Like you're getting to Bryce Underwood.
They did a good job flustering him.
You're rattling Bryce Underwood. You're getting in his head, and you've got a chance in this thing. And like right there, that was almost like the best moment of the season so far, I thought. It was like that drive, scoring, and tying it. Then you're right. Like what was it? So into the Illinois game, they gave up a touchdown drive, I think, or a field goal drive. Into the Minnesota game, they gave up a field goal drive right before half. Into the Rutgers first half, they gave up a touchdown drive. And again today, giving up a late touchdown drive right before halftime.
And had a kickoff return.
And Notre Dame had the kickoff return touchdown, yeah. And tonight it was also just like the most Purdue way for that touchdown to result, because they get the great play from Dory Hines, a third and goal from the 5. He picks off Underwood. So now Purdue has its own red zone takeaway, and the first of two, and then the offense can't do anything with it. It gets 3 yards, and an incompletion, and then Jack McAllister, for whatever reason, it's that moment where it's going to be the worst punt of the year for him. Like, he's been so steady all season long, better than steady, and he just gacks one out of bounds out of bounds for 21 yards and sets Michigan up at the 32, and it scores 5 plays later. Like, that's like, it's just the most Purdue way for that thing to happen.
Yeah, and to Purdue's credit, I thought that could be a snowball effect going into the second half. Michigan gets the ball first, scores there, you kind of double up, and Purdue's defense came out and stayed strong, gave the offense plenty of chances to go out and seize this game. Going back to that drive, the thing that Josh Henson, the offensive coordinator, said on Monday was this team has been kind of a quick strike, big play offense at times, and a team that shoots itself in the foot at times. And I thought that was the most methodical. Like, you're right, against Michigan, you're not going to go, head to head across the board and compete with this team. But if you can take away nearly an entire quarter on one drive, you just got to outdo the other team for 75% of a game.
Yeah. And they didn't do quite as much wild stuff as I thought they might. I thought they might have like more tricks up their sleeve than they usually did. I don't know if the absence of Devin Mockabee and the stability that he gives you that you can kind of build around had anything to do with that. We haven't mentioned that yet. I think we'll get to that maybe at the end of this. Let's talk about the game, one of their big plays in this game real quick. They come out at the start of the third quarter. They get a defensive stop. They go down and drive for a field goal. And even that one had to happen in like kind of a Purdue way because they get a grounding penalty on third down. And I don't know if someone on that play, like Ryan Brown was getting smushed in the pocket. He turns and chucks it. Was there supposed to be a receiver there? Are you just disoriented in the moment? It's not one that I put a lot of blame on him for necessarily. Is it better than taking the sack there? It's kind of 6-1 probably. Anyway, Spencer Porth comes out and drills a 50-yarder. So career-long Spencer Porth field goal, another bright spot in an otherwise trying season. And now you're 14-10, and your defense is playing well. Their defense, I think, gets another stop after that. Like, you've got a chance to do something here. I just felt like this offense, they end the game with less than 300 yards of offense. There were ways in which it was better, but so much of the night was really kind of in that 9.5 minute drive. They weren't consistent enough offensively in the rest of the game. And then I had their own red zone turnover. And that's where they're kind of at right now, especially playing a team as good as Michigan, is that you can win the red zone turnover battle, not just the turnover battle. You can win the red zone takeaway battle, but just the one that you lose could still be the reason why you lose this game. It would have only made it a 3-point game at the end instead of 6, but it changes the complexion of some things if they're able to finish that drive.
Purdue is not good enough to make mistakes and win. And you're right. Even though Purdue offset some of the mistakes it made tonight, against a team like Michigan on the road, you almost got to be flawless to pull out a victory, and Purdue wasn't. And that was the ultimate reason why Purdue is going home with a loss. But, this team is not big on moral victories, but I thought, they're not going to come out and say, like, hey, we're very proud of what happened tonight. But I think it was a big step in the right direction. And deep down, the players, the coaches know that this was major progress.
Yeah, I think there's things like this that if you're a competitor, you can't really take any time to look in the rearview mirror to be proud of how far you came to lose. That mindset is not going to ever get you the win. And I think they have done a good job, seem to have done a good job of scrubbing all that out. Like, Barry Odom has never talked like that from day one. And I kind of rolled my eyes at that a little bit at the beginning because I was like, listen, I'm trying to ask you questions about like what you're building for the long term, and you won't talk about anything beyond this season. But I get it. And it doesn't mean that we can't still talk about our own thoughts of what's going to happen in the long term. And I thought tonight was kind of an example of that. Like, I think they're very disappointed to still be in this position where, they've had games this year where they were the team that outgained the other team by a lot, and they still found a way to lose. And tonight they were almost on the flip side of that proposition. And you should be able to win both ways. That's where they're trying to get to. But I did ask Ryan Brown after the game because I thought this was kind of the crux of it. It's like, listen, you were here last year. You saw the way things, what do I want to say, cascaded last year. like the way things just that snowball started rolling downhill and it became an avalanche, and there was no stopping it. I didn't say all this during my question. This is for the color of my delirium in the middle of the night. Over these last 4 games, can you build momentum, win or lose? And he said yes. And he was talking about how he didn't want to talk about last year, but you could tell in his response he was talking about the dynamic around the team being so different now than it was last year, and how that there isn't quit in this team hasn't quit. He doesn't see guys quitting. He doesn't see guys looking off to whatever comes next. And who knows what will happen this winter. But I do think you can feel that around this team. And I think the fact that they lost those 3 games the way they had, I think starting the year with 2 wins was important, whoever they came against. It kind of established a competitive pride. And then you know that the next couple games are tough. And then, yes, it was frustrating to lose those games in the middle, but you know that you were the team that was good enough to win those games and just didn't. And that's frustrating, but it still, I think, helps kind of fuel that competitive pride. I don't know if Purdue playing its best game is enough to beat any of the next 3 teams on its schedule. I suspect it's not good enough to beat Ohio State or IU. But I still think that you can see, as much as I said last week, by not winning one of those 3 games, you blew your chance to really be able to make a case that you made progress this season. There is still momentum that can be built into the offseason by what you do in this last stretch.
Yeah, very much so. And, again, Purdue fans aren't going to sit here and say that this is great. It's only a 5-point loss. But you want to see progress. And, this is big moving forward, because you have to, after this season, when you luckily are 2-10, have to sell a whole fan base on buying season tickets again next year, or donating to the football program or things like that. And if you don't continuously show that there are signs of growth and progress and that the program is moving forward, people won't do that. So even though it feels like Purdue's not playing for anything, there are small things like that we don't even talk about or know about that, the coaches still are playing for. The players, Tony Grimes said this after the game, and it might be lip service, but I don't think it is with him. He said, we all love each other. We're still playing for each other. This is a guy that's down to his final 3 career games. And, he wants to see this program succeed, even if he's not here when it happens. And there's a lot of other guys that are like that, they feel like this is their chance. Christian Moore, for an example, talked about this earlier this week too. When it does start winning, if that's the case, you want to feel like you had some sort of hand in helping it get there.
Yeah. One other play that we need to talk about, we've obviously skipped around a lot of stuff. A lot of things happened in this game. It was an interesting game. But Purdue has, around midfield, it's 3rd and 1, and they've got Malachi Singleton in the game. They run it on 3rd and 1, and on that play, I don't know if they run like ISOs with him or whatever, but there was an open run gap, but a linebacker on the other side of it who was just crashing downhill, and he hits Singleton in the backfield for a 1-yard loss. And now you've got 4th and 2. It's the end of the 3rd quarter. They come out for the start of the 4th. They keep the offense on the field, and they run what I would say objectively, just from watching it, was an even worse run play, because he just ran. It was just a crowd in front of him, and he gains 1 yard, but it's a turnover on downs. And it's very easy in retrospect to quibble with the play calling. I'm always kind of been a fan of, on 3rd and short, if you know you're going for it on 4th down, do a short pass on 3rd down. Like, that's where you've got some unpredictability on your side. You can take advantage of that. But they may not have confidence in the receivers to catch the ball all the time. They were better at that tonight. Not really any glaring drops that I can remember. It's been a while since we've been able to say that. But I feel like these short yardage situations, they had some other successes there tonight, but I feel like going into next season, that's going to be one of the things that I'm kind of judging this team on, is have they made progress in how often they succeed in those short yardage rushing situations. Yeah,
and that was I'd have to go back and look at it, but I think that Malachi Singleton almost didn't be patient enough to let something develop. He took the snap and already was darting forward and just ran right in the back of somebody. And then he's just, at that point, just trying to barrel forward and get what he can. And He did get a yard, but Michigan was okay if he got a yard. And Barry Odom was asked after the game if he regrets that, not punting it away there. I think absolutely. You're 2-6 and you're on the road and you have a top 25 team possibly on the ropes if you get this first down. Absolutely was the right call. You do it 100% of the time. And it just didn't work out in Purdue's favor that time. And the backbreaker was Michigan took advantage of the short field and goes down and scores. But I don't, you can question the play call. I don't question the decision to go for it on that fourth down.
Yeah, and listen, like Purdue averaged 3.5 yards a carry tonight. That's not sack adjusted. I don't know what it would be. I can't do the math sack adjusted, but like 122 yards combined between Malachi Thomas and Antonio Harris on 26 carries. That's kind of fine. That's in like the mid fours. And in Singleton averaged 4 yards a carry. It was really the sack yardage that took that down under 4 or whatever. So it was kind of a fine night running the ball. I think of Josh Henson, if we had, maybe we'll ask him on Monday, what goes into the play calls there, and he would say that they've been having relative success running the ball. So they had some trouble keeping the pressure off on pass plays. I just think you're not running a conventional pass play probably with Singleton there, right? You're rolling him out and doing something short. I don't know. Anyway, a lot of ways you could go with that, but let's talk about why Malachi Thomas and Antonio Harris were the running backs tonight. Devin Maccabee, we sort of, I thought there was kind of some smoke out there this week, some things that maybe something was going on there, and he didn't make the trip and we don't know his status for the rest of the year. So I think you've talked to some people that.
Well, here's a guy, he's in his 5th year. He hopes to play in the NFL. Whether he does or not, we don't know, obviously. But if he's hurt, that doesn't help the situation.
Yeah, really no chance at that point. Yeah.
But, you got to look out for your future a little bit. And the team is, now not eligible for a bowl. He's a guy that he played 45 straight games. I went back and looked at the last time he didn't play a game. It was the season opener in 2022, and it wasn't because he wasn't healthy. He just was like the 4th running back on the depth chart that day.
Right.
And injuries accrued over the next couple of weeks, and he got elevated from walk-on that was not going to play to ended up being the starter and then proved himself and has been a mainstay in Purdue's offense for the last 4 years. So very uncharacteristic for him to miss a game. So that to me tells me, this probably is a deeper injury than what we know. I thought it was kind of weird that we weren't allowed to watch practice on Monday. I don't know if this played into it at all.
You wonder, yeah.
But it's unfortunate because this is a guy who's the captain of the team. He's a guy who, when everybody else was bolting and getting in the transfer portal, he was like, no, I want to get my degree from Purdue. That's why I came here. I came here as a walk-on football player, and it just so happened that I earned a scholarship over time and whatnot. So a lot of fans kind of were endeared. The guy at the fan day this year had a line in Ross-Ade Stadium out to the bleachers from midfield. So it was, he's clearly a fan favorite, and it's unfortunate that he missed this game and may not suit up for the Boilermakers again, but that remains to be seen. It'll be a question that probably gets asked of Barry Odom every time we get a chance to talk to him moving forward.
Yeah, and this is one of those things, and I this is not me being a hater. This is just maybe me being a pure realist, and it's a really bad thing for Devin Maccabee. I don't know if it's that bad of a thing for Purdue because you're just at a time of the season where, as much as he'll still be around the team, he can still be a leader, and hopefully he does get to come back and play. But if he doesn't, it just means more carries for people like Antonio Harris, who maybe get better because of it, and guys who are going to be here next year. And at some point, that's going to be something that that this coaching staff has to take into account. I think I was asked. Somebody on Twitter had asked me, hey, now that you've ridden the last 4 games and guys can redshirt, are we going to start seeing more true freshmen? And my answer was, like, in theory, yes, but really your first responsibility for everybody involved with the program is to give yourself the best chance to win. So the guys who are the best players, regardless of their year, are going to play the most still until it gets to a point in some game maybe where you have to start weeding in some of those, or what I'm saying, mixing in some of those younger guys earlier than that. But I think if it's a thing where this opens up an opportunity for someone like Antonio Harris to, like, position himself to be a bigger part of next season. I think Malachi Thomas is out of eligibility
Yes.
as well. So, this could set him up to be the front runner next year if he can have some strong finishes this season. So I think that's about it from the big house. We've been going for 20 minutes and we've been going for much longer than that. We both got to drive back to beautiful Toledo, Ohio tonight to get some sleep. Thankfully, it's
we get an extra hour of sleep. Yeah,
fallback nights. We're going to spend that extra hour of sleep driving back to where we're going to sleep. So thanks for joining us. Hopefully you weren't actually watching this live. Hopefully you're just watching this Sunday morning. But we will be back with you, Boilers Extra, sometime midweek. Probably, I would guess, on Wednesday. We've got Purdue's basketball home opener is on Tuesday. And I think Wednesday is probably going to be a day where we do more of like a big season preview, even though the season will have already started. So look forward to that. We'll see you again soon.